Yes, it's for Nazi shot. Goes around the outside, it's in his team.
Barely qualified.
Hello and welcome, everybody. I don't know why I'm looking at my microphone to start things off. Is it because I'm nervous? I might be. Welcome to the show now known as Barely Qualified. We took a little bit of time off. We rebranded some things, but we're back. We're back talking Formula One. It's the same two guys. It's me. I'm Channing Apodaca. Hi, how are you? You know who this guy is. Brandon Wood.
They couldn't keep us away.
They could not keep us away. We tried to take a step back. We tried to say, maybe we shouldn't be doing this. But there was so much fucking... No, we didn't actually try and walk away from the show. It's a complete rebrand. Welcome to Barely Qualified. Same shit. Maybe some new bits, maybe some new gags. Who knows?
Yeah, a little bit more attitude.
Dude, we're in our attitude era.
Yeah.
It's the wolf pack right now, baby.
Yeah.
Ow, ow.
Yeah. Yeah, you're Megan the Stallion and I'm Ice Spice.
I was thinking of wrestling, of NWO or WWF. I don't even know which one the attitude era was in. It's just a term that I found out. I heard about not too long ago, and I thought it sounded tight. The attitude era. That's what we're in. This is Barely Qualified, a Formula One podcast. There has been so much going on in the world of F1 that we had to come back early. We had to launch our rebrand earlier than we anticipated because the fucking walls have come down. Formula One is off its hinges. There's so goddamn much going on. We thought we were going to go, oh yeah, we'll get to Bahrain. There'll be some liveries that are going to come out. They'll do some testing. It's going to be the same old shit. The Red Bull is going to be flying. Everybody's going to be in their places. No. There has been so much going on that we had to jump right into it. Biggest story of the summer. Is it summer? Of the winter? Of the break? Of the time off? Lewis Hamilton announced that in 2025, he is going to be driving for the Scuderia Ferrari.
He's going to look really good in red.
He's going to look good in whatever he wears. He's Lewis fucking Hamilton. The guy's an Adonis. But holy shit, this is the biggest thing in all of sports. This is one of the biggest, most monumental moves in not just sports, the world. This should have been the biggest thing in F1. Nay, the biggest thing in all of sports. Nay, this is the biggest story on the planet right now. And most people stateside aren't talking about it. This is fucking huge. Lewis Hamilton, 7-time world champion, is going from Mercedes, a team that he built up himself from the ground up with Niki Lauda, with Toto Wolff, with Nico Rosberg, a couple other here and there. Valtteri Bottas, shout out, is now going to, I want to say their arch rival, but that's not true.
Not as of late, yeah.
No. But the most historic team in F1, I was getting into arguments online with people, and I shouldn't say arguments. I was in the comments of some Instagram accounts. This was such a big story that WorldStar posted it. That's big, dude. When WorldStar is posting Formula One, soccer, or hockey,
it's mainstream.
It's mainstream media. So people were in the comments of this WorldStar thing, and I click on it. I go, I gotta see what the WorldStar people are saying. So I read it, and the first comments are like, "Can somebody explain this to me in basketball terms?" And everybody was going, "This is like if LeBron James signed with the Golden State Warriors," and I was like, "No, this is like if 5 LeBron Jameses signed with the Golden State Warriors. The impact on this, because of the scarcity of how many F1 drivers there are compared to how many NBA teams and NBA players there are, the magnitude of it is that much more. Yeah. This is fucking huge. Not only has Lewis changed the landscape of Ferrari, not only has Lewis changed the landscape of Mercedes and F1 altogether, the ripple effect that's going to happen, he has changed the economic status of that stupid little country, Italy. Ferrari's stock went up 19 points in 2 hours, and Mercedes plummeted. I don't know anything about the stock market. I know they dipped, and I don't even know if 19 points is high, but it sounds good. That to me is fucking crazy. This is a monumental move.
Yeah, this is, if you want to put it in football terms, a little Super Bowl.
Hey,
a little Super Bowl reference.
Shout out T-Swift.
It's like Brady leaving the Patriots, going to the Bucks.
Bigger.
But to the next level, right?
It's not comparable.
Yeah.
It is. I think it's incomparable to compare it to any team sport, mainstream, one of the big four. Like this is 5 Wayne Gretzky's going to the Toronto Maple Leafs. This is 5 I almost said Wayne Brady's. This is 5 Tom Brady. This is 5 Wayne Brady's doing stand up and completely leaving improv behind.
Yeah, this is 5 Wayne Brady's in the height of Whose Line Is It Anyways?
Yeah, this is Tucker Carlson joining CNN. This is huge, okay? This is unsurmountable. And I think the ripple effect is the most intriguing part of it to me.
Yeah.
What's going to happen to Formula 1 for, I would guess, the next 10 years is going to be huge because of this move.
Definitely. I mean, it's going to change, like you said, the landscape for a lot of things.
Yeah.
Now, Mercedes is totally changing their strategy probably. For
Mercedes is rebooting. They're doing a complete reboot.
They kind of have to, right? So,
why does Lewis do this?
yeah. Well, apparently this has been, they've been courting him for over a year. Remember, I don't know if you remember last year at one point, there was like a rumor of Lewis talking to Ferrari had came out. And then maybe shortly after that, it was like, he's also talking to Red Bull, right?
Yeah, there was that whole like Christian Horner courted him.
Which I feel may have been somewhat of like a red herring, right? Like, is a little bit of a distraction. You guys, talking about the Red Bull thing.
Yeah, a little Project Blue Pill.
And then it apparently wasn't until in the past 2 weeks where Lewis finally signed.
2 weeks from the announcement. Not from today.
Yeah, so something must have happened. Lewis had been talking to John Elkann, trying to sit, and apparently John Elkann, the president of Ferrari, had been like saying, "Hey, Lewis, you want to come over here. I know you've said it before. You've wanted to drive for us at some point in your career. I feel like now's looking back at the Fred Vasseur signing after Mattia left, it's like, oh, was John Elkann like knowing about his like Lewis's passion for Ferrari at some point? Maybe like he thought,
yeah, everybody wants to drive a red car.
If there's going to be any chance of us getting Lewis to drive for us, like maybe let's sign Fred, bring Fred in, and this would help make the case, because Lewis apparently has a like big affection for Fred Vasseur. He drove for Fred early on in his career in F3 and GP2. So,
dude, Fred has had his hands on so many good young drivers.
Mm-hmm. Well, it was because he was the leader of the ART team.
Yeah.
So big development team within the Formula One, just like universe. So it apparently that's kind of what helped get it across the line. I mean, they offered.
You think that $100 million had nothing to do with it?
I mean, the money certainly has something to do with it, right? But he wasn't going to make the jump if he didn't feel confident that he was at least going to get some good performance out of the car.
There are big factors. Like I think Lewis can perform in the Mercedes. Like there's all this shit been like, oh, the W14. He test drove it and went straight to Maranello. It's not going to be bad. I think the Mercedes is actually going to be a good car this year. But I think in Lewis's mind, here's how I've been thinking about it. I think Lewis goes, I can finish anywhere from second to fifth next year in a Mercedes. I can do that. And I can keep my contract as is. I can continue making my $44 million a year or whatever with no ambassadorship. Or I look at this Ferrari offer. It's $100 million with ambassadorship, and I can also finish anywhere from second to fifth in a Ferrari. Why not shake things up? Why not stir the pot? Why not set the F1 and the sporting world on fire and do this fucking deal?
Yeah.
And drive for the greatest team in the history of Formula One. You get to play for the Yankees. You get to play for the Cowboys. You get to play for the Leafs. You do it. You take that.
Yeah, it's the legacy part, right? And
legacy.
If things don't quite work out as well as they may have if he had stayed at Mercedes, at least he has somewhat of an out. It's not completely on him. But if you're Mercedes, like, how do you feel right now? Like, if you're Toto Wolff, do you feel like, oh crap, like what do we do? Are we screwed here? Or do you feel like,
I think they're doing everything that they can do in terms of PR and like what they're doing with their media and doing like, oh, George Russell is the best number one driver that we could have asked for. Get fucked. Like, you have to say those things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they're handling it really well by, parting ways cordially. When I first heard about it, I heard a lot of rumors online that Toto Wolff was fucking pissed and that he was so upset about it that he might cut Lewis early and have him.
I mean, he did. I'm sure he was pissed because he found out the day before the
day before at dinner.
I mean, I was thinking about it too. It's like, Lewis, being Lewis, like looking at how last season went, it's like he went head to head with George a bunch of times. He had the team not really fully backing him when he had complaints about the car and like in suggesting certain changes.
To him anymore.
I mean, there was like moments last year where like Lewis ended up on the podium and the team wasn't there. There's tons of races where Toto wasn't even there. He was like, I mean, he was hurt, so he had part of it. He was like in a hospital, but you know what I mean. Like the team, your team principal's not around. Like things are not going well. It
sounds like Mercedes has been resting on their laurels a little bit and maybe got a little bit too comfortable. And Lewis was like, no, dude, I'm Lewis Hamilton. Like I can snap my fingers and change the landscape of the dumbest country on the planet if I want to.
Yeah, I'm 40 years old and I don't have time to be sitting around wasting.
Exactly. And Lewis is a baller. Like Lewis makes waves wherever he goes. And so he's going to do Lewis shit. And I wake up every day and I pinch myself and I go, that's right. We live in a world where Lewis Hamilton is driving for Ferrari in 2025. It's still fucking bonkers. Yeah. The ripple effect is so fascinating to me because now you go, okay, so it's going to be Lewis and Charles Leclerc. What a duo. What a tandem. And I think tandems are going to be the way that you have to approach the championship for at least the next 2 years because that's such a strong duo. Yeah. That's going to force Red Bull to respond, right? They have to respond with, hey, Checo, you need to be on your fucking P's and Q's and you need to be up there. There's no more out in Q3.
Yeah.
Out in, or not in Q3, out in Q1 and Q2. There's no more of that. You need to be on pace, on par. If you're not going to be, then we got some dumb Aussie in line who will give it a shot. And if not him, then we got this beautiful New Zealander who will also do it. Same thing with McLaren. I think McLaren has a solid duo, and those two need to perform, and I think they will. Mm-hmm. This is the year of McLaren. But the tandem is going to be the thing. So now Mercedes has to respond and put a world beater in that car. And that's where the ripple effect is going to just really start. Mm-hmm. So, like, where does Carlos Sainz go? Do they do a seat swap? Does Carlos Sainz go to Ferrari? I don't think so. It doesn't vibe.
Mercedes, you mean? But
sorry, Mercedes.
Yeah, I mean, there's already, like, that's the thing is, like, okay, what is Mercedes' option? Because they're obviously going to be on the back foot, mm-hmm. right? And,
first rumors were...
And when you're... I've heard this said about other athletes in other sports, but, like, if you're in Mercedes' spot, it's much easier to keep a Lewis Hamilton than to make another Lewis Hamilton.
Oh.
Right? So they kind of put themselves into a situation where, like... They're kind of screwed, but at the same time, Toto in his his statement after the thing, he said, it leaves us with an opportunity to be bold, right? So looking to the future, who do they sign? What's the most bold choice for maybe building for the future, right? Man.
Yeah, do they? So that's the big question. I think the Mercedes seat is the most interesting one of the ripple effect. Like, because there's questions. Where does Carlos Sainz go? And then you can point at each one of these drivers who are going to be affected by this potentially and go like, is this the guy? Is that the guy? But filling that seat is the most intriguing part of this. Is it going to be Carlos Sainz? I don't think so. I think Carlos Sainz is going to have his eyes on the Audi seat in
There's already been rumors for quite a while that he's been in talks with them, right? So
is it going to be Alex Albon, who was the very first name to pop up, who I think is a great fit?
Great fit.
I think it's a perfect fit. Him and George are really good friends. He's a young driver. He's really shown that he can compete in Formula One. He took that Williams above and beyond last year, but also his teammate was Logan fucking Sargent.
Sure.
We could very well be seeing an Alex Albon performing at par, below par, just above par, but it looks so much better on paper because his teammate was Logan fucking Sargent. Mm-hmm. Or they can go with Old Faithful. They can take Fernando Alonso away from the Aston Martin team, and there's already ties there. Anytime you have an engine manufacturer supplying your team, there's some communication, which is why the Alex Albon name came up at first. So Fernando Alonso is on the table. Or do they go with rookie phenomenon, currently going to be driving in F2 next season, Kimi Antonelli, who is their new blue chip prospect?
Yeah, it's kind of a stretch because he got fast tracked to F2, right? Like, so.
But if they want to be bold,
and if he does really well this year in F2,
I think he's gonna.
They kind of have to, right?
Yeah. And I think that's the way to go. Like I said at the start of the show, I think a rebuild or a rebrand is a good thing for Mercedes. Mm-hmm. They were on top for 8 years. Is this the time for them to go like, all right, let's pump the brakes and let's focus on developing our 2 drivers
Mm-hmm.
and focusing on Kimi being the new number 1, and George just kind of gets swept under the rug because George was supposed to be Lewis's replacement. Didn't really happen that way because Lewis still did Lewis stuff, and George has kind of just been shown as this little bit of an underperforming prick. He hasn't had the greatest package.
Yeah. But made a couple costly mistakes that I think hurt his overall standings last year. So.
Big time. And I think he's shown that he, like, when it comes down to it, he can't get his emotions together enough to be a true number 1, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, you just think about, like, the endorsements that Mercedes is going to lose in the next year. It's just, there's so much that they're going to be on the back foot.
Yeah. I think they'll be able to,
it's going to be it's going to be 3 or 4 years until we see Mercedes actually giving a, like, honest fight for the lead of the pack, right? So
unless they do it this year.
But
if they put together a world beater of a car this year and Lewis goes for one final fucking run, maybe.
I feel like the car's not going to be all that much different than it was last year. Because if there was
side pods. I just hope it has side pods.
If there was that big of a change, I feel like Lewis wouldn't have made the decision that he made, because it's obvious that, like, he made the decision. There was something that happened after him doing some sim testing that made him push the deal across the line.
Yeah, and only, one of the things that we didn't mention, not only is Lewis leaving, Bono,
a bunch of engineers, like
his
Ferrari already has one of, like, their technical guys that left last year or the year before. So they're building a team over there that's going to be very competitive, you know? And I mean, think about, they've already kind of gotten close, right? Like, they're the only team that was able to win a race other than Red Bull last year. So
no Ferrari. Oh, Ferrari.
So I think the stages
with who? The guy that they're giving the boot to.
Yeah, you know, and you know, for Carlos, I feel for the dude, and it sucks, but I feel like his Audi thing's already kind of, like, sealed up.
And you already know that Charles Leclerc is the golden boy at Ferrari. Like, we knew that. He signed, before they announced this, he signed an undisclosed number of years with Ferrari.
Yeah, and there's a lot of speculation about that too, about why that might be, and there was a lot of, before the Lewis announcement, there was a lot of, like, well, how come we haven't heard anything about Carlos's deal? Like, what that is all about. So Lewis signing was made that make much more sense. But with Charles and his deal, one of the thoughts behind them not really saying how long the term is for the deal is kind of, there could be, say it's a 3-year deal, and after 2 years, Charles can exercise the option to leave the team.
Yeah.
Kind of like what Lewis had.
Lewis had the exact same, not the exact same clause, but a similar clause in his contract.
Yeah, and so the
which
team
led to more speculation of being like, what's going on at Mercedes?
Yeah, and so the team maybe doesn't want to, like, let any doubts out there by announcing the fact that Charles can leave if he wants to.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
It's just, yeah,
I mean, what a tandem. Like, we're really going to see both those guys put to the test, because I don't think Lewis has had a teammate of that caliber. Nothing against, you know, Val or, you know, not since Nico Rosberg, I guess you could say, that has Lewis had a teammate test that high.
Yeah, but I think Charles.
Same thing with Charles. Charles hasn't been tested like this.
Yeah,
never in his career.
And the thing that's going to be tough for Charles is because Charles has obviously proven himself to be fastest over a single lap, but his problem is consistency.
Fastest in F1 too. Like let's state what that means.
Yeah, but
over a single lap, he is the best driver in the world.
But consistency is his problem. Lewis
consistency is also a problem with that Ferrari car.
Lewis, I think, being Mr. Consistent, you know, can actually, you know, sneak through with maybe not even getting, like, the best finishes, like, week after week, but being able to be up there and put the car at a good spot every week. I think maybe overall throughout the long term have a better season than Charles might.
Yeah. So another thing that happened with all this Lewis talk, like, it has just shown how fickle an F1 contract can be, like him opting out, you know, because he had an open door and he kind of uses his clause to get out.
Lewis, though,
yeah,
because he signed last year he signed a 1+1 deal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But so he takes away that +1. But But we also saw what McLaren did a couple of years ago by buying out Daniel Ricciardo. And I've been saying it for a long time that like an F1 contract is almost like it's pointless at this point because they can just buy them out. And one of the names I think that came up also was Lando Norris because of the connection between McLaren and Mercedes because of the engine supply. Lando Norris signed an undisclosed number of years with McLaren, but is there like an idea that maybe Lando could go to Mercedes, or there's been big rumors that Lando could possibly go to Red Bull? I've been touting that for a long time, and Lando himself went on record and said
he doesn't want to.
He doesn't want to.
Yeah.
What was his exact quote? He was like, "Why would I want to be Max's teammate?" Like it wasn't.
Yeah,
that.
because it was something along those lines of like it would be really tough being Max's teammate, like just week after week, and people gave him a lot of flack for that, saying, "Okay, well, if you really are that like." That badass of a dude, you wouldn't care. You'd want to go up against him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's best that Lando does stay at McLaren and be the number one driver there, though, and go toe to toe with Max in different machinery would probably be better for him.
Yeah, but I mean,
Max
where he's at now,
he's a career killer, dude. You don't want to be in the same car as him.
Yeah, and Lando's already at a team that's
on the up,
and it has been proving themselves to be able that they can potentially fight for that lead, right? So,
I mean, maybe save this for another episode when we do predictions and stuff. But dude, I got my sights on LN. Dude, This is 2024 is the year of eating potatoes every day. You listen to Mr. Bombastic by Shaggy every day, and McLaren and Lando Norris showing up. I'm saying that right now. This is early. It's for another episode, but that's what this year is all about.
Yeah.
Okay.
ZB's been putting in the work, and I think last year they showed some great results, and I think the stage is set for 2024 to be nice and orange.
I think so, and we're not the only ones saying that. There are a lot of people who are making predictions that, like, yes, the obvious prediction, and obviously, yes, we need to save this for the prediction episode, but I'm going to preface that episode by saying there are a lot of people saying, yeah, it's going to be more of the same. It's going to be a Red Bull year with Max Verstappen at the helm. But if anybody's going to fucking challenge, it's going to be that sexy little tan, curly-headed motherfucker with a mole on his lip in the neon green helmet. Okay, that's for another episode. Anyway, Lewis to Ferrari 2025. I wish we could hit fast forward on a year. But then at the same time, I think 2024 is going to be pretty fucking exciting too.
So how do you think that's going to go for Lewis this year? Like, do you have any, like, what are your expectations for him knowing what we know now?
I think the easy answer, and this is what I was feeling at first when I was thinking like, oh yeah, Toto's going to give him the can. Why would they want to keep him around?
I mean, they have to. He's Lewis freaking Hamilton. He's the
Lewis
most popular driver on the grid.
And also, like, Lewis is a man, like, he could easily phone it in and go, all right, like, I'm just going to fuck off this year. This will be my last year at Mercedes. No, I think Lewis actually holds his time in Mercedes in high regard.
Totally.
I think and he cares about that company. He cares about that team. And he cares about legacy, like we said. So if he was to go out and phone in this season, then we could look at his approach to Ferrari in the coming year and go like, well, fuck off. Like, you just did this. You just kicked the can down the road for the last year. No, I think he's actually going to go all out. I think he's truly going to give that team, that factory, and the Mercedes fans a show this year. And I think he's going to show out. I think he's going to have a good year. If he doesn't finish top 3, I'll be surprised.
Would we expect to see George's
demise?
Like, well, will he treat his battles with Lewis any differently now? I mean, he already kind of didn't care last season. He was like, I'm just going to fight him. Like, it doesn't matter. Like,
I don't expect anything other than like
the same
from George. And I don't mean that as a bad thing. You know, I'm the president of the George Russell Hater Fan Club, of which you are the co-chair, but he is a competitor at the end of the day. Maybe he thinks a little highly of himself. I don't know. But I do expect that he's not going to let Lewis slide because it's his last year. Yeah. And I don't think Lewis would want him to.
I mean, I think this is really George's year to prove that he's
the number one.
Can usurp that role, right? So
I don't think he's a number one. I thought going into his time at Mercedes that he was the heir to the throne, but the last few years I think he's shown, in my opinion, that he's not that guy. Yeah, he's a little big for his britches. That's my opinion.
It's gonna be time for him to show it. So
yes, sir. All right, should we wrap this up?
Let's do it.
Okay, Guys, we have a new, we have a Beacons AI. You'll see at the top of all of our socials. Go check that shit out. Follow us on there. Follow us at Barely Qualified. Is that the new handle?
Yeah.
Is it just Barely Qualified?
Mm-hmm.
Hell yeah. Follow the pod at Barely Qualified. We're putting out more content, new attitude. It's the attitude era. Is there like a tip jar in the Beacons AI?
There will be one set up. Yeah.
There will be one. If you guys drop us a couple bucks in there, you'll get a shout out on the show. How about that?
Easy.
Bada bing, bada boom. This has been the inaugural episode of the new podcast known as Barely Qualified.